adult education, you've tutors there and coordinators that are non-judgmental and meet you on the same level, and the support that's been offered from there is fantastic. And once the group is established, the support that's built up among them is great as well.
I think that the most important event in the history of the last year has been the report of the Ryan Commission on Child Abuse. I think that has been a stunning insight and confirmation, copper fastening a decision and saying this happened in our institutions. And appalling things are documented in that report about how the church and the state and our culture and our society, how it treated children who were poor and put into institutions and who are made to work for a living at a very young age. Because if they're the same organisations, it's then totally understandable that the places that they provided for the education of other people were also brutal and vicious and didn't treasure people and didn't allow people to grow and didn't nurture them.
There are numerous barriers and challenges facing men who re-enter education as adults.
Some of the barriers that might be there for men re-entering education is among men. There maybe a promotion of a culture of learning, I think, among men that has to come from men, where they value and kind of encourage each other and create a culture of learning and education and valuing education.
There are barriers that face any adult learner returning to education, and questions that they ask themselves is the 4 fears of returning to a new group, and are things like, will I be accepted in the group? What will other people know in the group that I won't know? Will other people know each other, and will I be able to get on with each other? And I suppose for men that's compounded by the traditional role of what men may be seen in society, like, am I going to get paid for this, and putting a value on it in that way.
I think there are a few barriers. One would be the financial barrier, the actual cost involved in returning to education. Another barrier would be the gender imbalance, whereas predominantly females attend training at the moment. So there's predominantly more females than males, so the gender imbalance would be a barrier for males returning to education.
One thing that might be forgotten about from my point of view, I know it sounds very small, but the monetary assistance that we got, I know it was only €20 a week, but without it, really, because of the travelling and that, a lot of people like me just wouldn't be able to do the course.
I wanted to go for a degree, but I couldn't because there's a barrier for me because I didn't have the status to go. And I had to defy the course again, the admission again this year. I wish I couldn't go again. But sometimes it's very painful because of my residence, I couldn't go back to school. And I find out that even though I was given opportunity to go to school, the fee is another big problem for me. So I couldn't even afford the school fees. So it's no point even if I have the admission to go for the fee, because the increase in the registration fee, and generally I was rated as international student. So it's a big failure for me anyway.
Other people in the same situation as myself, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people think they're unique, you see. According to their own experiences, they can only see them through their own eyes. But then you're sitting in a room with your peers, and they're sharing similar experiences, and even how maybe, for example, they were rejected by someone or a body of people or a society of people in the past because their views are different maybe, or because they don't feel like they're educated enough. They have this inferiority complex. You go into a room full of very well educated people, there's always something that one of them doesn't know, and you can put forward a little bit of information. By teaching somebody a little bit of something about any little subject, you can actually feel better about your own self, that you are an intelligent person.
The benefits to the FDYS in terms of those who've been participating in adult education have been immense. We're based on the premise of volunteering and volunteerism, and the value of those who've gone back to education and become involved with FDYS either as paid employees or participate in the CE programme, or one of the huge number of volunteers that we get on an annual basis. It's becoming very apparent that they want more than just coming for the 1 hour or 2 hour. that a huge part of the draw here is that they become involved in structured training, that they're developing themselves, and that they can see the value in the work that they're doing, either in paid or as a volunteer in the FTYS.
I think we need to face up to the fact that people who are getting government funding to provide education for the community, that they have a responsibility to provide education for everyone in the community. Men, women, people with disabilities, people from different backgrounds. So really the policy thing is that the government needs to start implementing the policies that are there and making organisations face up to the obligations that they have. You know, that there's some kind of service levels agreements, or that there's inspections to see if we're employing you or paying you money to educate the community, that, you know, there are a reasonable number of men, that there are a reasonable number of women, that you know, people can't just be allowed to work with half the community and just say, oh, it's too hard to get the others in. People need to be much more proactive, and the government can enforce that through policy.
There is a multitude of benefits to men, their families and their communities from re-engaging in education.
No matter what stage of life, I would certainly recommend it. That there's great benefits for whatever sphere of life you would be in, like, you know.
Every door always opens to another opportunity. I've never ever, and all my skills that I picked up previous to my moves always came in handy. Always have extra skills.
These benefits could be even greater if reinforced by some policy changes and some financial security for the sector.
Let me just put it this way, that I'm in a group now, which we are about 15 or 16 group that have gone back to school since last year. And we've been doing very well. And I was amazed to see all people who have stopped education since 20, 15 years coming back to educate themselves. And it's a great opportunity because it gives them an insight to make an impact in the community, you know, to grow the economy, you know. So I believe education is the basic things. It's just a phenomenal thing to have as a future.
Well, what I really hope for is to get a career. I think that's what all the lads want doing the course at the moment, and I'm considering going back to college full-time next year, and hopefully in 3 years' time, when the economy does pick up, that there'll be jobs out there in this line of work.
Well, my family have been very supportive. They've pushed me, well, not pushed me, but helped me every step of the way that I'm coming, and boosted me on as time goes on. You know, there's now a level 6 in community development coming up, so my family are kind of telling me to go for it.
All the learning from the Engage programme and being back in education for the last 2 years has been put into the allotment scheme now and put into building communities.
I think the best stories is that we all help each other through our training, and this is, for me, that was a great discovery, that it was not like going to formal education. You're not on your own there. There's a group, there's a vital combination of things. And we now, I now understand, we have all different ways of learning. There is not, like if you're in formal education, there is not one way of learning.
It's well worth it. If you want to go back to school and get a good education for yourself and do maybe something you like in sound engineer like I did myself.
Well, I know in my class there's 7 mature students, and every one of them will tell you that, you know, it's benefited their life in many ways. It's helped me in many ways in my own, how I view myself, my personal development. There was fears along the way, but I managed to get through them.
We hope to improve our own community within around Wexford and stuff, and maybe, please God, spread it even further and allow other people to see that if we can do it, they can do the same thing.
Adult and community education can and does become a liberating process for those who get involved, transforming participants into agents of positive change in their communities.
Unfortunately, with the cutbacks, when my contract ended in June there, they didn't renew it because they said that they had no money in that, and it was a body blow to the group. They couldn't understand why they couldn't keep coming out here, especially, you know, a lot of the marginalised lads that I had on the group, and now they're back. I actually seen some the other day. They're back drinking on the quay, and I don't know what I can say. I'm out of work myself.
I think it's about time that the government took the ordinary people in the ordinary communities seriously, and it's time that they showed a proper example to the ordinary people. If they want people to take the pain
of what the cuts, social welfare cuts, all kinds of different cuts in society. They have to set a good example.
I think it's time for the people of Ireland to stand up for their rights. We're here today to try and make a difference, and please God we will.
I feel great. It's great to be involved in something like this, you know, making a difference, making a positive impact. That's what we want, like, on the community, and just to see all the crowds here, it's great. Brilliant to be part of it.
It's about justice and fair play, and remains to be seen whether anything will come of it, but hopefully it will.
Well, I think for the group I'm involved with, it's a major first step putting ourselves out into the public domain. They've been in training, they've been like getting the community development background, and this is what has to happen. It has to happen on a greater scale. It has to happen throughout the country. People have to stand shoulder to shoulder.
Go for it!
Go for it! Go for it!
Go for it!
Go for it.
One more time.
Go for it.
Let it fall. Shake a hand. Don't you ever let it go. Share a smile while it's still worth your while. Time passes by. Faces change, but we'll stay the same. And time passes by, and we will meet again. Glance behind, and you're here again. And we will dance again sometime. And we will meet again. Glance behind, and you're here again.